Hello. Hello. हो गया। हम लोग भी बैठ सकते हैं। हाँ मैं बोली हूँ आ रहा है I'm asking you, have you raised? You have collected? They should go this colorful one. There is no like gray one, it's not there.
భోజనం ఉన్నది ఇక్కడ దాని పైన నుంచి కావాలా మీకు వద్దా కావాలి కదా కొంచెం సైడ్ పెట్టి సైడ్ కొనేసి
Check, 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 check.
I want you guys to message pictures. You guys quickly out. We are not having the delegations. We are not the directors are board में कि strict action will be taken आज but the people who are not going to come. क्योंकि पिछले session में there were hardly 50 students.
Yes, but I need the password for the internet. Is this one
No, so remove N from I am
N?
R only.
this Vaurak?
Yes,
Vaurak.
rest of them.
And then the internet is this one?
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
I mean, there are
I am.
And
And the auditorium one, there's no. It's not Google. Others.
हाँ
Others.
Is it Bow right or?
Balrak at the rate IIM.
हाँ
It's
it is
Bow?
right. हाँ it is right.
It's not.
I'm joining in. Apple connector.
एक सेकेंड सो वील बी टेलिंग यू अदर नेटवर्क कोई और नेटवर्क है जो तुम्हारा आईटी का काम करता है और का है हाँ
Hello, hello.
सो वन मिनट
Yeah.
हाँ
अरे नहीं लैपटॉप
Hello.
वो जैनबाग का कनेक्ट कर रहा है क्या अनिल हाँ वो कर रहा है He wants if he has some logo.
Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello. Hello.
And this network works upstairs because after I have a call in the, I'm going to the classroom. One year auditorium.
For the upstairs, you need to connect up with the IIM.
Yeah, and then that password is correct, the Valra, Valra.
Balrak at the rate. Yes, at the rate IIM.
I have to do this one here. Not that.
Yes.
No, no.
Not in. Yes.
Yeah, like this.
Yes.
Valra.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
अभी किससे कनेक्ट करूँ
वो ठीक है प्रेजेंट करना सर को मस्ती करनी है एग्जाम
नहीं वो
Hello, hello.
प्रेजेंटेशन
Hello, hello.
क्लासरूम में लेना वहाँ पे तो ये सेट भी ऑलरेडी जो डेस्क है वहाँ पे भी होगा तो हमने बोला ठीक है होगा आई गेस उसके लिए उनको आई एम राइपुर वाले का पासवर्ड लगा था रूम में तो वो आपको जाना था
वो ठीक है पेपर प्रेजेंट है ना यहाँ पे नहीं प्रेजेंट यहाँ पे देखिए हम ये इसको बनकर इसको ये
रोकना है इसको अभी जब वो
ये ठीक है हाँ इसके वाले ये क्या तो ये वाला दिया ना इससे हम कनेक्टेड ये वाला किसका कनेक्टेड
वो सर के उसमें हाँ
पूछ के
नाम देखो
कनेक्ट करके कर तो दिया उनका ओके हाँ ये क्या करना है
सीधे होगा
ये
वो अपूर्वा दिख रही है
नहीं
दिख नहीं रहा है देवशा को कॉल करो बोल स्विच मारे यहाँ पे पहले अरे मैंने शेयर करी तो थी ये शिका हुआ था
वाहनों के काम आ गया स्विच कर लो ये हटाना ठीक है लिसनिंग में
अरे तो वो यहाँ पे सही आ रही ना
यहाँ पे तो सही आ गया
रुको ना
ठीक है ये रहेगा
हैं
ये लिसनिंग में जो बोलते जाते हैं टाइप होती है
ओके ओके ये हटा हुआ है ना अभी?
नहीं
ये मैं भी मना कर रहा हूँ तो ये वाली
नहीं एप्पल इसमें से ही प्रेजेंट क्या जहाँ स्विच हाँ तो तभी मैंने नहीं
हाँ
मैं वही बोल रहा था ना सोफा वैसे
कुछ बात क्या बोल रहा हूँ स्क्रीन शेयर में नहीं दिख रहा है स्क्रीन शेयर तो है क्या वही है हाँ वो समझ नहीं आ रहा अगर फोन लगा लो
सही है।
हाँ सही है
सही है करके बोल सकते हो।
नहीं यार पहले सही होता था लिसनिंग मोड पे जाने का हाँ हो गया ये स्क्रीन वहां नहीं है
Will be beginning shortly. Good afternoon to everyone present here. I, Roshan Matthew,
And I, MS Gayatri,
warmly welcome you to the second panel discussion of the day on the topic Challenges and Opportunities for Young Scholars in the BRICS. To gain further insights on the topic, I would now request the distinguished panelists and the moderator to join us on stage.
we would now like to take the privilege of introducing our esteemed panelist. I am honored to introduce our first guest, Dr. Shashwata Guha, Department of Economics, Kanchrapara College, and one of the coordinators of South Asia Working Group, INET YSI. Dr. Guha is a Doctor of Philosophy with his PhD in Economics obtained from the University of Hyderabad. He has been teaching economics at Kanchrapara College, a degree college affiliated to the University of Kalyani since November 2016. Dr. Guha has also been the course instructor for various papers. Sir, we are honored to have you here with us.
Our second distinguished guest for the discussion is Mr. Papaya Koppula, Center for Development Studies, JNU. Mr. Koppula is currently a PhD student and has obtained his MPhil in Applied Economics from the Center for Development Studies at JNU. He has interned with the National Human Rights Commission and has volunteered at the Center for Study of Developing Societies in the district of Guntur. Sir, we welcome you to our second panel discussion today.
Our third honorable panelist of the day is Ms. Pratiksha Gopinath Bitspilani. Ms. Pratiksha Gopinath is a PhD research scholar from the esteemed Department of Economics and Finance at BITS Pilani, Hyderabad, with a keen focus on socio-economic issues in higher education in India. Ms. Gopinath's research delves into the analysis of higher education access inequalities in India. She has focused on access, equity, inclusion in higher education.
I'm honored to introduce our fourth guest, Ms. Shoye Wong, from the School of International Relations and Public Affairs, China, who will be joining us online via Zoom. Ms. Wong is an accomplished professional with a diverse background in economics, healthcare management, and public policy. Hailing from China, she brings a wealth of experience and expertise to the table. Ms. Wong completed her bachelor's degree in economics at the University of Sichuan, China, followed by a master's degree in healthcare management. Her academic interests range from economics, finance, trading, social policy, and governance. Ma'am, we welcome you to our panel discussion today.
I am honored to introduce our fourth guest, Mr. Bruno Henrique Sanchez, FGV EAESP, Brazil. Mr. Sanchez has a degree in business administration and accounting sciences with a lato sensu postgraduate degree in applied statistics and a master's degree in administration at FGV in the technology and data science line. He has developed his career in project management, technology, and financial auditing. Today, he dedicates himself to the study of digital transformation for social development. Sir, we welcome you to our panel discussion today.
I'm honored to introduce our fourth guest, Dr. Thandalul T. Kwani, Nelson Mandela University, South Africa. Dr. Kwani, an agricultural economist with a PhD in agriculture economics from the University of Fort Hare, has a background in agribusiness management and development studies. Dr. Kwani has dedicated her career to fostering sustainable agriculture development. Her commitment to education and practical experience as a credit clerk demonstrates a holistic understanding of agricultural economics and management. Ma'am, we welcome you to our panel discussion today.
I would now like to take the privilege to introduce the moderator for this discussion, Dr. Jose A. Pupin, FGV EAESP, Brazil. Dr. Pupin, an esteemed faculty member at FGV and visiting chair professor at Fudan University, holds a PhD from MIT and a master's from Hokkaido University. His interdisciplinary work focuses on governance, institution building, and policy implementation amidst global environmental change. With experience in over 20 countries, he delves into the intricate dynamics of how environmental shifts intersect with national institutions to shape governance and drive sustainable development initiatives worldwide. Today, we eagerly anticipate his insights into this critical nexus. Sir, we welcome you to the panel discussion.
I would now like to request Dr. Jose A. Pupin, our moderator, to welcome the panelists with a bouquet. Dr. Shashwata Guha, Mr. Papaya Coppola, Ms. Pratiksha Gopinath,
Mr. Bruno Sanchez, Dr. T. Kwani,
I would now like to request Professor Jitin to welcome Dr. Jose A. Pupin with a bouquet. I request the moderator, Dr. Jose A. Pupin, to take the panel discussion ahead.
Okay, good. Good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here again with a panel that the idea is to discuss the challenges and opportunities for young scholars in the BRICS countries. You have here a very interesting mix of scholars with different interests. And this is a panel I would like to thank very much to the INET, the Institute of New Economic Thinking, the Young Scholars Initiative for sponsoring this panel, also to sponsor the trip of the scholars here, the young scholars. And the idea is, the panel is, you're going to have a short presentation about the INET. And after that, each of the young scholars who have included yourself, you have 2 to 3 minutes to talk about what you think is the challenge opportunities for young scholars in your context, in your country. And in the end, you hope also to have a discussion with a lot of young scholars I see here in the room, and also people more experienced that could bring some insights on career and also opportunities young scholars may have in the future in the area of public administration and management. And that's it. And then I would like to invite Dr. Sawata Guha to give a short presentation about what is the INET and Young Scholars Initiative. Please, maybe you could go to that.
Yeah. So PPT is.
If I stand here, I don't know. Thank you.
This is the slide change.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Is it changing? No, it's not. Yeah.
Is it working?
I'll change for you. It's not a problem. I think it's okay. Can you please fix it? I think it's stuck. Can you check? It's not working. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. First of all, I would really like to thank the organizers for inviting me. And is it, I'm supposed to stand on this, or is it okay I stand this way? Is it okay? I stand this way? Okay. Now, ours is a post-lunch session. So I think talking of challenges and opportunities, this is one of the biggest challenges to have a post-lunch session, to speak in a post-lunch session. Now, of course, there are opportunities therefore, because that's how dialectics works, that when you have some challenges, that itself also gives you opportunities to, that also gives you new opportunities there. In the year 2008, most of us are aware, in this room, most of us would be aware of the fact that we had a huge global financial crisis that led to what is later termed as a great slowdown, then great crisis and all that thing. It was not the Great Depression, but it was a big depression that way. So in that context, there was a lot of debate. Like what happened? Could economists did not see it coming, and what happened to their theories? Did it not help? It seems Queen called the economists and asked them, what were you guys doing? You did not see this coming. Now, it was in that context, it was kind of realized that we need a new set of understanding, new economic thinking, because the existing economic thinking, some way or the other, got us here. So that was kind of an opportunity to rethink about a lot of things. And here we are. It was in that context, this non-profit organization, Institute for New Economic Thinking, came up, and it's based in New York. But it's an interesting organization which actually supports a lot of academic activities. However, there are it gives you platform for various kinds of voices and other kind of economic theories, new ideas, and so on. Young Scholars Initiative is actually an part of the INET. Now, this is a platform for the young scholars where you can represent your ideas, you can be part of. Now, one would wonder, why join or be part of YSI, and why do this? What is this? Now, as you can see, it kind of inspires and supports the new generation of economic thinking. And the idea is to transform the discourse and promote debates and engage in new ideas, challenging ideas. And what happens with let's follow this line. This is the idea of YSI. We envision economic thinking that's free of intellectual barriers, resonates with reality, and serves our global society. It's very fascinating that we are in a world where we talk about liberalization and opening up borders for international trade. But when it comes to the world of ideas, we are doubtful, are we really that open? Do we listen to alternative ideas? Do we listen to ideas which are not exactly mainstream? Now, what can happen with that kind of barriers? I think that is the biggest challenge, because unless you listen to newer ideas, alternative thinking, you don't really go ahead. If you look at, for example, how macroeconomics, the discipline of macroeconomics progressed, it was always by somebody challenging somebody else, and mostly somebody challenging an established author and an established thinker. So there are some dominant thinking, some big crises or some slowdown happens, and then somebody says, okay, things are not working, here are some new ideas. And then somebody comes up again, because these ideas get into other kinds of trouble, and it goes on that way. So this is very important for us, that we kind of break those intellectual barriers and have a platform, have a community where we can share and our ideas, however new that is, whether it is not mainstream, whether it is mainstream, irrespective of that, we need to have a platform where we can share our thoughts. And very interestingly, here I would like to refer to John Maynard Keynes. He said that the classical economics is right, but not for the world we live in. So basically, he was kind of criticizing his own predecessors, saying that the theories that they promote is kind of true for a world that we don't live in. Of course, there are criticism of Keynes's own work also. However, this is also a big challenge that is before economists today, whether our economic theories are really talking to reality. I would like to share a story from my classroom. So after first semester, a student from microeconomics class came up and said, okay, we have spent this whole semester learning perfect competition. I have Jio, my friend has Airtel, some friend has BSNL, just by chance. And here we are, so many buyers. Is this the perfect competition you taught us? I said, not exactly. Then he said, then in reality, I'm not able to find it. I said, welcome to Economics 101. Now, here is the thing, that it's very important for us to connect with the reality with our existing theories. And that is exactly why microeconomics progressed from there, and to talk about imperfect competitions and so on. And then there are theories which could not tackle some of the existing problems. And so perhaps we need newer ways of thinking. We need to ask newer questions. So the idea is that we need to resonate with the reality. Sometimes there are ideas which are not really spoken about much. YSI is a platform that tries to accommodate every kind of ideas, however new that might appear, however less represented that might be. And of course, it has to serve our global society. So as you can think of, the idea is we aim that there are new ways to approach economic issues, and we need to understand the foundations of economics. And the third point is extremely important. Just like the cubicles in big buildings, we tend to work in our own silos. And it's very important that we kind of break our own silos and come out of it. And we need to address the challenges that are before our global society. YSI also recognizes the following, that let's remind ourselves, economics is not a settled discipline. It is not like we are happy with everything that we have, the theories that we have, we are completely, satisfied with that. This subject is not settled and the debate goes on. So, and economics is a topic, it's not a technique. So it's a social science. We need to understand, we need to approach economics as a social science. And that's exactly where YSI also tries to bring in a lot of scholars from across disciplines. I would like to tell you that in 2019, for example, there was an Asia convening that happened in Vietnam. I was presenting my paper on macroeconomics, and there were papers presented by lawyers in the same panel, also people from humanities. And they all talked about the Indian context in some way or the other, but from different disciplinary backgrounds. And there is no trade-off between depth and breadth. Now, these are some of the, these are older numbers. The newer numbers, I'll tell you the newer numbers. There are this formal structure. There are members in the in YSI, and then there are organizers who will volunteer to organize different projects and events. And of course, there are coordinators of different working groups in YSI. So think about it this way. INET is the mother organization under which we have YSI is part of INET. Within YSI, there are different working groups. I'll show you in a minute, which is this. There are different working groups. And if you think your research or your area of interest connects with it, then you can be part of any of this group and many of this group, all of this group, whichever is suitable for you. And if you go to INET YSI's website, you get a more updated numbers and updated working groups. Each group has coordinators, as I am one of the coordinators of South Asia working groups. And of course, then there is YSI management. There's INET staff that administers the community. A very interesting question that is before us is that for anybody to think that way, why should we think of something like YSI? I feel, and perhaps this will come up in our conversations, a PhD life or research life tends to get a bit lonely, intellectually speaking. So what happens? You may have ideas and you may be looking for time to meet your supervisors, right? And you may think that these ideas, I need a platform where I can share my thought, I can share my ideas, and I want to get feedback from my peers. So you go to different conferences. So think about YSI as one such platform which connects you with scholars, younger and senior scholars across the globe with various backgrounds, various disciplinary backgrounds, different kind of research backgrounds, and so on. So it really helps us to kind of come out of that kind of a solitude or loneliness. Solitude is a different word though. So I'll tell you my own experience. So when I was doing my PhD, it really gave me a platform where I could present my works before renowned economists whom I otherwise could not think that I would meet ever. So it was really nice to get their feedback and opinions on our work. Now, there are some of the examples of different events. There are webinars. There are in-person events like this. And there are series of events. There can be series of events. There can be peer conversation, like if you want to think of different scholars coming together, having a session on an topic of interest. There are book reviews, the book reading groups. And this is just a calendar, just a random snapshot. If you just go to the YSI website, log in, join the different working groups, you can also access the calendar and see what are the different projects, different events YSI is organizing. So these are some of the examples. This is in 2018. Again, this is Europe convening in 2018. This is Africa convening in 2018. This is North America convening 2019. And this was one of the biggest in the recent past. This is pre-COVID 2019 that happened in Asia. As you can see, there were scholars from across the globe, various parts of the world with different kind of disciplinary backgrounds. Now, during COVID, we also had a lot of online events and webinars and plenary sessions. And let me tell you, I was presenting in one of those plenary sessions. The youngest in that panel was right out of school. Yeah, you heard me right. And he was comparing the economic performances of different countries in South Asia during the COVID era. And he was right out of school. And so you can see that if you're interested in something, there's no barrier as such. I must emphasize here, this is an extremely inclusive group that gives opportunities to any form of ideas, because promoting pluralism is one of the major goals of INET YSI. So I would like to thank all of you for being here and listening to our presentation. And I would also like to welcome you to join YSI and whichever working groups you want to join. The interesting thing is that you'll get different updates about different events where you can apply if you think so. You can be part of, and you never know. You can change your professions from corporate to economics, economics to corporate. And trust me when I say this, this platform is where I have met people from corporates, people from non-economics backgrounds, and who need not be researchers themselves. So thank you once again for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Um, Do you have any quick question about the INET, the Young Scholars Initiative? No? If not, Southwater will be here, no, for until the end of the day. You can meet him during the coffee, and if you're interested to know more about the INET or the Young Scholars Initiative. And also, he said there's a lot of information in their website. I really thank you for the support, also for the young scholars to be here with us. And in this panel, as I mentioned, you're going to discuss the challenges, opportunities for young scholars. Could be in terms of doing your research or job market, or how you conciliate your personal life with your academic life. Could it be any issues that is come up? You try to maybe start with Southwater, and then you go in this direction, and in the end you go to Ms. Wang, that is in the online, no? Maybe you could start.
Thank you, sir. So when this idea came up, talking about challenges and opportunities for researchers in BRICS countries, there are different kind of challenges depending on who you are, where you are. It could be your socio-economic position in the whole coordinate system. It could be whether you are in a state university, whether you're in a central university, you are in an institute. But we were discussing yesterday, and we have already agreed on one major problem. Perhaps all of us will refer to this when we speak about. That is one of funding and resources. But I will go to that. But before that, going to that, I think I must emphasize here that when you think of PhD, a lot of people come into PhD thinking that, okay, this is another kind of opportunity for us to be part of something long-term, some academic progress long-term. So what happens in the process is this question that why are we doing the PhD in the first place? So that is a question that really should bother us, because, and then once it bothers us, and what kind of questions we are going to address in our topic, in our research. So the first really big challenge that is before us, that choosing a topic in PhD. And there, unfortunately, in many places in India, we don't have that kind of a support system which gives us the exposure and training which can guide us in choosing a topic. And a biggest challenge, and bigger challenge perhaps, is to selection of supervisors. What happens is, like any other distribution in the world, the distribution of this also is very skewed, depending on different universities or different institutes. So there is overcrowding at some place and undercrowding in other place. So we look for different good professors. Sometimes it happens that the professor is really good, but not really matching with my area of interest. So that's another challenge. Like what to do then? This is a serious trade-off. Should I work with this particular professor? Or should I change, and change my topic of interest? Or should I, continue to follow my interest and change the supervisor? So one, of course, a big thing is that kind of orientation that is required before you get into PhD, thinking about how to choose a research topic and how to find the suitable institution or university or institute, and finding a good supervisor. A big issue that becomes in PhD life is that we forget. And post my PhD, I have always told my friends and juniors that please let us write this sentence on our wall in our study table, in front of study table. PhD is a time-bound degree program. Okay? Let's not think of this is like a big thing or something. This is the beginning of our career, and let us not spend and waste most of our lifetime in this. So let us try to remember PhD is a time-bound degree program. What happens is there's an interesting a cycle of PhD life. The initial years go into research methodology courses and so on. And unfortunately, I'm sorry to say this, most places do not have good research methodology courses. They have something in the name of research methodology course, which is anything but research methodology course. So people come and talk about whatever they want to talk about. So that creates a big trouble for the scholars, because at the very beginning, this is a compulsory thing you have to do.
research methodology course, which is not taught properly in many places. So institution plays a big role in that, in designing the coursework, PhD coursework properly. And then we don't have that kind of mental tuning that we are in a time-bound degree program. So we kind of think, okay, we have time, we take slowly. And once you are after second year, 2.5 years, slowly something, the tension starts brewing inside, and then you think, okay, what to do now? So A, I would say that that kind of orientation at the beginning. B, I would say finding good supervisor is a big challenge. C, the institutional support is a major concern for us. And another important thing is, now this is a more debatable, and I'm deliberately putting this up for a discussion here. We also have a requirement of certain number of publications during our PhD. Now, this is a bit tricky business because of various reasons. You may take a lot of time to find your right topic and get your research done. It may so happen that after you have completed your research, you actually have good papers to publish, good papers to send to journals. But then even to submit the thesis, you need a certain number of publications. Now, this is for our conversation later. But this, I also feel this is something that we need to talk about. What are the prospects for is why do we even go about all this? So I'll rest here for now and we'll go on.
Thank you very much. I think it's an issue regarding, I would say, like economics, a path dependence. You choose a topic, a supervisor, a place you're going to study, you'll be stuck in that direction, sometimes for the rest of our life. And then it's very important that you choose the right topic of something that you imagine that you'll be working the rest of your life. And also choose, and the supervisor is the same. Sometimes you have the connection with supervisor the rest of our life. I got my PhD almost 25 years ago, and I still keep in touch with my supervisor, my colleagues. And then it's kind of interesting to choose a topic that you really think that to be working on that the rest of your life. Thank you. Now move to Ms. Kopula. Maybe you could say a little bit, a couple minutes on what the challenges, opportunities that Mr. Crayon scholars in.
Firstly, I want to thank you for the opportunity. First, I'll talk about the opportunities that are there for the scholars for the BRICS countries. As emerging countries, BRICS countries offers a dynamic and rapidly evolving job markets, which will give the opportunities for the young scholars to engage in collaborative research with other peers and also the experts coming from different countries. And also because of these collaborations, it would also help facilitate knowledge exchange, skill development, and exposure to diverse perspectives. And because of this exchange of knowledge and collaboration, people or the scholars who are in these countries would also get to know about the socio-political contexts that are present in different countries. As most of these are all these are developing countries, it would also help them to understand the mobility that the people in these countries are coming across and taking place. So but now I'll talk about the challenges that are faced in particular to India. There are so many challenges, but I'll be focusing majorly on three aspects. One is the competition, resource constraints, and the employment opportunities. So in the if you see there is huge competition to get into an institution, as a large number of people are appearing for exams and very few are able to get in. So in this, although they are able to get in, but the resources constraint is such that only few students are able to get through the fellowships like UGC or the fellowships like ICSR. So in these circumstances, people are forced to leave in between their PhD because of the pressure they are getting pertaining to finance. And And also, if you talk about the employment challenge, which is very important, because as we know that like India is going to face a huge employment challenge in coming 20 to 30 years, because India is in India, it hosts more than 600 million people who are like aged between 18 to 35. And out of like these, about nearly 65% of the people uh, are like below age of 35. So it is going to be a big problem. And I hope there is a huge discussion related to employment challenges that will be facing by India in the near future. So with this, I want to conclude. Thank you.
Thank you. The issue of the resources always come up. This is common, but it's the thing you have to live with that and try to find these resources. But what I found interesting, what you said, you look at the future. When you of course challenge the opportunity, people just think short term. I don't have resources. It's very tough life of a young scholar. But you look at the long term, and a lot of investment you have to make is to look at where I want to be in, as I said, in 20, 30 years. And you mentioned these a lot of issues that come up, and then you need to be prepared now. But when you arrive in 20, 30 years, you're much better position to that. Maybe you'll be close to retirement, but you'll probably be in the middle of a career. But some big change will come in the future. You need to be prepared for that. And this good point you made. Okay, thank you. And now let's move to Ms. Gopinath. And you could say use 2-3 minutes about the challenge you see, the opportunity. You have 3 colleagues for India, and then you're going to move to the other countries.
Yes, first of all, I would like to thank YSI INET for this wonderful opportunity and platform. Secondly, I would want to second whatever my peers from India stated regarding the challenges of a PhD scholar in a developing economy like India. So I would not just stick to scholars in the PhD program. As an individual, just to enter into the higher education sector, there are multiple barriers in a developing economy like India. So the 4 major determinants of access to higher education. So one is regional, spatial, or geographical inequalities. Second is gender-based. Third is social group or caste-based. Fourth is your income or economic status. So as a person, there are multiple minority identities that one has to look for in order to understand how vulnerable that person is. So more the multiple minority identities, the greater would be the vulnerability. And I would also like to touch upon, there are certain sections of the society that people still consider a taboo to be discussed about. So especially the LGBTQIA+ community, the scholars in institutes in India, 83% of the LGBTQIA+ students in India, they claim that they are in need of support groups, and hardly basic, I would say that only 20% of the colleges in India that have support groups have even a thing such as gender neutral washrooms. So certain things, like when you look at vulnerable communities like the LGBTQIA+ and the disabled community, so these things have to be looked into. And as a PhD scholar, again, seconding what Mr. Shashwat and Mr. Popula said, one would be access to financial resources, which our government of India is providing us with the UGC net and the CSIR net, and also Pradhan Mantri Fellowship. And second would be the access to knowledge resources. Again, it's an initiative by the Ministry of Education. SWAYAM and NPTEL MOOC courses are being provided, and you can register for free. And you just have to pay an extra $1,000 in order to get a certificate. And access to elite institutions and subjects, especially STEM subjects. So in the past decade of 2014 to 2024, there has been an impressive growth in the number of institutions, STEM institutions, which we premier elite institutions of national importance. So 7 new IITs, 7 new IIMs, 13 new NITs have been established by the government of India, which is a matter of great pride for our country. So in order to understand the challenges, we need to look at the scholar and need to understand from where that scholar comes from. So the key concern of urban and rural bias, it is still a key concern in India. And when we look at the income and economic inequalities, even though it has reduced over the past decade, there is access to higher education, it reduces as you move across the the income group quantiles. So as a young scholar, there are major 4 determinants or barriers to your successful completion of your program. So one is gender, social group, your locational status, and your economic status. So all these have to be kept under consideration when you think of how vulnerable a scholar is in a developing economy like India. Thank you.
Thank you. You mentioned a lot of the challenge the previous scholars mentioned, but you mentioned something very important. Certain groups have more challenge than others. There are certain, and sometimes they don't have the support they should have, like other groups. And also there is increasing in these challenges, be increasing the next years. And if you don't find a way that you could deal with this more, say, marginalized groups that need more support than the others, no? Okay, thank you. I got Mr. Bruno, please.
Hello, good afternoon. So I'm Bruno, I'm from Brazil, from FGV. I'd like to start to thank you for the Young Scholar Initiative for this opportunity. And I would like also to start to talk about some opportunities that we have as young scholars in Brazil. So first, Brazil is a big country and we have such diverse culture and also have many social innovations there. We have a rich field to research and to learn about. So there are many opportunities to learn, for example, how deal with social exclusion, to deal with the financial exclusion. For example, in my field, there is financial inclusion and technology. We have many initiatives such as BRICS, that is a digital public infrastructure. We have many regulations, fintech works. There is many things to study and to learn about what Brazil is doing. And this is opportunity to us to present to the world what is we are doing, the innovations and the way of deal with this such of problems. I think India is the same way. You have very interesting cases that you can show to the world how to deal with some such problems. Also, Brazil has a rich tradition on doing participatory research, especially with communities and marginalized communities. And this is very instrumental to think about a way to do research that is good for the society. And in time that we are calling for social impact, for research with more that can deal with our social and environmental dilemmas, this way of research is very powerful to learn how to deal with that. So I think Brazilians are well instrumented, well equipped to deal with such problems and also to show to the world some experience about how can we deal with research more impactful. I think these two things is very important that put us in a place to compete with the North or Western knowledge that are dominant in the academic. So we have opportunity to put place in a way that the global agenda or in the global soul agenda is put forward. Now, moving on for some challenges, of course, we have many of challenges, I believe, similar with India and other BRICS countries. The first one is, like I said, Brazil is a big country, but also the market job is very narrow. So what happens is that Brazilians or young scholars are pushed towards the international career. And by doing that, we face a challenge between being an international professor or scholar and also dealing with local context. So how to deal in a way that we produce global international research while keeping the impact on the contextuality of our problems. So it's very hard to deal with these two demands that we have, being contextually relevant, also at the same time being international relevance to be positioning in for an international career. And also we face a lot of narrow financial research. It's a problem because young scholars especially need to go to conference, needed to have research to their own research. And so it's common to see many young scholars doing too many side jobs or also take too many classes. So we don't have so much time to dedicate to our own research. That is the most important things to advance our career. So we need to balance also this side of our work to finance our own research, at the same time to have time or much time to dedicate to our writing papers, conduct research, go to conference. So we need to balance these two things as well. So that is it. Brazil has many challenges. I believe it's similar to India, and we have many to offer also to the world, and young scholars having a good position to take the lead in these movements. Thank you all.
Thank you, Bruno. Interesting, this opportunity is something I had put on my notes. I think being the BRICS, you have this opportunity. There are so much interesting things going on. We can make a difference. And even though we are emerging economies, you have some resources. I think here you have this opportunity to can address some problem in the real world that other countries may not have. I remember when I was in Canada 2 years ago, and then I arrived in Toronto, I got the newspaper and see what's going, the Sunday newspapers. It was in Brazil, all kind of chaos, someone killed, and the poverty rate increased, inflation. And I got in Canada was a raccoon attacked a policeman in the middle of Ontario. It was the main news in the newspaper. And I think a scholar there be kind of, what kind of problem I'm going to address. And I think the BRICS is this, you have this opportunity, so much interesting things in terms of problem the real world you can solve. Also this diversity at the same time, you know, even though we don't have a resource, but we have some resources that, for example, much poorer countries maybe not have those resources, no? And I think that is there. And right, you said this important point, scholars tend to pretty much focus on their country and study the object and less try to have lessons or have I would say contributions to advance the knowledge much broader than this own country's lessons. I think the big challenge is exactly a lot of scholars. I saw the papers also for this conference. A lot of people just study their neighborhood or the country, and little contribution that you see these lessons for beyond the objective you study. No, I think you make very good points. Okay, and then now we move to, before we go into Ms. Wang in the web, Ms. Kwangi from South Africa.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. And also thank you for such a wonderful presentation. I also going to maybe speak in general. As an academic, I think I finished my PhD, I think it's in 2019. At least it was just a few seconds before the COVID. So, okay. So with the opportunity side of being an academic, maybe we start with the good before we go to the bad. But what I feel, the opportunity, we can all assert to this, that once maybe you got your PhD level, the respect, besides not having the money, but at times the softness, the soft skill of respect you get in the community, the knowledge that you also have to bring back in the community. So it's something that we as academics, we cannot be paid enough for that knowledge and the skill that we transfer in the community, especially if we are more into community development, into rural development. No one can pay us enough for that. A story is told of an old woman after a snake was terrorizing the community and it wanted to swallow the child. So they had to look for an old woman who was there, who was wise, who had knowledge. She just told them that go and look for a rat, put the rat where the child is, and the snake ate the rat and left the child. So those are some of the opportunities that we have, the knowledge that we have, it's uncomparable. With South Africa also, there is funding that's there, but always there's a scramble for limited resources, like economists could say. There is the National Research Foundation, there is NEFSAS, where students are given funds to accommodation, food, transport, stationery, a lot, but there is also a criteria, if I'm not mistaken, is it 70% or 60% of your pass for you to qualify? It's about your academic excellency, so you get more rewards on that. But students had to also come up with their own where they would strike and say fees must fall, those hashtags and all that. And yeah, politics also comes into play, especially during elections where you get promises and then, politicians were laughing yesterday when I was saying, with politicians, I'm sorry if they are here, but that's what happens. They'll come up with an idea. Okay, fine. What's the crisis? Is this? Okay, I'm promising that the students, the fees has fallen. I think you understand. Someone said, yes, the fees has fallen and the person left. And the one who came in now, the students were saying, let the fees fall. And then it's impossible. So it's more like the fix it, I've said it, then find a way. So it's also another challenge that in as much as funding might seem to be there, but still it's not covering a lot of ground. We still have some protests and all that, so that even if the funds, they don't come in time for the students to be able to access them. Also, the issue of employment, it's actually an issue where you hear hashtag hire a graduate. I think recently there were posters of even medical doctors who you would wonder, why wouldn't a medical doctor be? Because we all thought medical doctors get a work before they even finish their studies, but that's also another issue that someone is graduated. So you wonder if a medical doctor is not employed, what about an economist? What about a human resource manager and all that? We have been talking about digitalization now with a system where I think I'm not mistaken, if there is anyone in HR, there is ATS, where your CV goes through AI. So if AI does not pick whatever that is looking for, without even finding time to hear me speak or defend myself and looking at my qualification, I'm not employed. But they did not get a chance to meet the real me. So that's also another issue, that the employment, yes, there is no work, but also the digital and the AI systems and the system which they are now using to employ or to recruit, it also becomes a challenge with also our recruiting agents. There's a lot that yes, it's creating employment with getting agents to recruit, but also there's elimination of important aspects. I think also the issue of gender, it's also something that's becoming it's still a challenge, especially on a woman's side. Even yesterday, I received an email that was saying, sir, can I please be allowed to write an assignment? Okay, then I said, it's okay. Another one sent again, sir, okay, the reason why they are saying say it's because my email has got a doctor, a DR. So anyone who has a DR is a man. So with respect, that's a say. Until I had to say, I'm sorry, I am female. So it's something that, yeah, that I don't know how long it will take for people to take it neutral, because it's either it's Miss, or Mrs. Either you are married, you are single. Like MS, yes, they don't know. MI, you are yeah, and then so there are very rare people that would, even if they say professor, it's actually an issue of a man. So it's those small silly mistakes that people do, but they're actually an issue, especially to other women. And also the issue of us as women, again, you'll find that there is this definition I'll always argue on the issue of saying young. So if you are going to decide to say that it's a young scholar, and then you say it's 35 years, for a woman at 85, I had to give birth to 3 children. And I had to somehow pause because you can't do it all at the same time. I had to pause because motherhood, school, and all that. And we have got him there. He's a 35, he would be a professor because he had no pause in there. But then when you are now being given the atmosphere to say you are applying for a grant, they will tell you that it has to be 35 years. But no one ever asked, where were you in the 35 years? Why are you applying at 40? So that gap should be like to say maybe with women, yes, I think United Nations now is trying to adopt it to say women, they are now at 5 years? So if it's 35, women, it's 40. So at least to counterpart the whole thing. But at the end of the day, I think, yeah, we just continue as academics, don't rest where you are because it's Kaizen. I remember I took a break. When I came back, I met bibliometric analysis, I met systematic literature review. It was not there by the time I did my PhD. So just go to the internet and see what others are doing so that it can cover you. So at the end of the day, if you think education is expensive, try ignorance, then you'll see that it's worse than that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, you touched important points, particularly the one that others maybe have not touched much is the question of employment, that a trend that change quickly, I would say sometimes in a country. I remember in the past, there were a lot of academic jobs, even without PhD. You could get in Brazil when I graduated my PhD in 99. When I came in my school, there were only 20% of the faculty had PhD. Now 100% they have, and there are more, and then the market actually stagnated in the number of PhD in the market going to the find a job increase. And now we have the opposite. There are a lot of PhDs that we not find. I think India is still a little bit behind, but other countries, I think South Africa, maybe also China, they have the same issues. Now more PhDs than actually jobs. What happened, people are postponing, they go to postdoc and they have a temporary position. And particularly for one woman, it's difficult because this, particularly if you, for women, sometimes the question, even for men, to have a family sometimes is a challenge, because if you know you have a family like 2 kids, it'd be much more difficult to actually, in a very competitive market with little opportunities, find a job. No, but I think you touch important point. Thank you. Now move to the last speaker, Ms. Wang. Can you hear us? And then maybe you could say a little bit more about challenge opportunities for young scholars in China. Ms. Wang? Can you hear?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you, I think.
Okay. It's my great honor to be invited to this discussion. Thanks for your for our commentators' comments on PhD career. As a PhD student on the road to my degree, I feel the same for the pressure of qualifications and publications. Mr. Guha also mentioned the new thinking of economics, and I also think that this measure is also my major is also facing similar situations. I will mainly talk about challenges from disciplinary point of my view. How can students take advantages of this change in the development of the subject and determine your research topic? Along with the rising importance of the British members, there are many research on international relations among BRICS countries. However, most of the member countries, the research on these members are underrepresented in top journal. At the same time, China has made area and country studies a top discipline, which is crucial. So the most challenging part of discipline growth is epistemology and methodology, not quantity, technology, language, or culture. Even these elements are really important to make use of PhD trainings on typical methods and language. My major in China takes a catch-up process that emphasizes cutting-edge theories and methods, but struggles to solve practical difficulties. In addition to drawing on one's own country's rich experience, one must also investigate other countries and areas' background to better comprehend them. A student who shifts from China to comparative politics feels this most. My current research is in political economic with a focus on South Asia. As mentioned before, it's important for PhD students to choose a topic, but sometimes you don't know much about the country you haven't researched into. At the same time, finding high quality primary materials and presenting them properly are also crucial. Even though I can't attend offline, I wish to understand my study nation by attending this conference. I hope future I can do field research in India. How to communicate national governance while giving universal experience is a second challenge. And I think there are few case generalization theories in underdeveloped countries. That's all my opinions. I'm looking forward to seeing what other scholars have to say about these issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Enu. Now we finish, she touched important points like the issue about, also like mention a little bit more about the methodology. Today, there are so many methodologies, and it's for young scholars to choose which methodology you're going to use. You cannot, like my time, I could kind of almost manage to learn all the methodologies, but today it's almost impossible. And it's very important to define which methodology you're going to use, because this is require a lot of time. We will not be able to master all the methodology, and this is things that the young scholars they mention a lot as an issue. How the doubt they have which methodology I'm going to choose, which one I need to know in order to know to do a good research. You never know in the future how these things are going to change. You know, today there are a lot of trends to use big data, and a lot of emphasis in quantitative methodology. And even the journals, some journals now became, particularly in my area, public became almost fully quantitative. And if you don't do quantitative analysis, it will be very difficult to publish in some of these journals, going to follow your career. And I think this was an important point. I have some questions, but before I open here for the panelists, if you have any question, want to raise any issues for other colleagues, anyone? No, I think Alexei is just.
Yep.
Hi, Alexei. Are you want to mention any question?
I can add a little bit information about how we work with PhD students in public administration in Russia, if you would like. Just a couple of words to show a more broad picture of BRICS countries. maybe it can be interesting. Up to you. Yeah, possible.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Mhm.
And then after
So-
that, I'm going to open for you also to raise issues and then we'll start the discussion. Please, Alexei.
Okay, okay. We have a system of research seminars for PhD students in public administration, which helps them in preparation of the research articles. And it works for seminars of first, second, and from the next year for third year, last year of education in PhD programs. And completely devoted in preparation of the articles. It's 4 hours per week, each week during the year, excluding summer months, but all other time it's 4 seminars per month we have. And this is a very strong system. When we discuss with all PhD students, first of all, subjects of the research articles, after this thesaurus of research articles, after this the information about how what kind of research questions in the research articles should be, and so on. And this is around 14 different subject of discussion. For each subject, every PhD student sent short text as a block, a small part of the articles, and it discussed in the seminar. And we have a table of progress. And step by step, very slowly, we construct the research articles as a complete text, including we discuss this methodology for each article differently. We discuss how to select the sources for literature review. We discuss how is better to shape the research, including roadmap of research. And finally, we discuss the conclusion part of article. After this, we check which journal, for which research journal the article is applied, and help PhD students in negotiation with the editorial board of the article, of the journal, in accepting or rejecting or partly accepting the article. We have a special table of PhD progress in articles, with which is main document for all PhD students. If you would like, I can show this table on the screen.
No, I think because this session is no PowerPoint. Maybe
but just maybe interesting. But by the way, this is a strong system of education of PhD students, and it works because it's starting 6 years ago, and we have a lot of students who already passing through the PhD defense of their dissertation, and successfully. So it works. This is just a system which works in Russia right now.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. I think it's interesting, these the support for the PhD students, the young scholars, to the issues they're going to face. Many of them need to publish articles, and then you're having the support of the university. And some universities, even as you mentioned, can give support after the PhD. You know, some of I do this also with some of my students. You know, the support continues a little bit after they finish, because I think they need a little bit of support. Because sometimes one thing that you still don't have much this culture particularly in Brazil, when you have a young scholar just finish the PhD, that is not very supported in when they start job. They just put a lot of classes, like me, just go to teach class, but not much support. And I think sometimes I got a lot of support from the place I was before, for the 2 years that after PhD, because the job sometimes you don't have this culture to tutoring the young scholars for the next steps.
We provide this support 1 year after the finish of PhD school. 1 year of support.
Okay, thank you, Alexei. And now we open for first here and then later to the audience. Any issues you would like to raise and questions to your colleagues? Saraswata, please.
I just followed the entire discussion. I think one important point all of us have not talked about, missed out completely. I mean, which is linked with whatever we discussed. I think we tend not to discuss about the mental health issues of the PhD scholars. And this is a serious matter. Because think about somebody's life for 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years, right? So it is not just the amount of resource that is available. It is also the irregularity of resource. Let's say you have a fellowship, but the fellowship takes months to come. Let me share an anecdote here. My senior got a fellowship about all total for few months due. He got more than 60K. The fellowship came, he was so happy. And I think in 1 hour, he was paying off his loans. And within 1 hour, he had only, I think, 100 rupees left in his account again. Because he had to take loans from others to run for all these months. So the resource constraint creates a lot of pressure. Okay. Secondly, when we talk about like the supervisor, the other kind of support, I mean, whether we like it or not, a major part of academia is still feudal. And suppose you are stuck at one place, you find it very difficult to move out. And then you are, bound to follow certain things which may not be very comfortable for you. You may not like this idea, this particular idea, you want to change it, but then you get stuck. Some of us get very lucky in life that we get very good supervisors, but not everyone. So that also, now imagine this, getting stuck in some cases. Suppose you are in some lab-based PhD, work discipline. There, the vulnerability of the scholar is a lot more. You depend so much on them. Adding to the other kind of vulnerabilities, my co-panelist talked about. Now, because my other co-panelists also talked about the job market, there's also a question of insecurity. Imagine somebody coming from a rural background, doing the PhD and getting to read in newspaper the job markets are going down, PhD scholars are appearing, applying for non-academic posts. Now that creates another mental stress, and this is really not good for the mental health of the scholars. And also, as I said, and this is where some of these platforms and forums can be very helpful, that you feel a bit lonely because there's no one to hear your voice. So all I'm trying to say is that from the institutional perspective, there has to be a recognition. There has to be, you cannot hide the stories of suicide. You cannot hide the stories of the mental depression and mental health issues. I think we have to address this aspect of research scholars in developing countries in particular.
Good point. This is an issue, like, for example, universities in the richer countries, they have already addressed long ago the issue of mental health, and many of our universities still in the early stage of this, and it's a major issue for many of our students, particularly the PhD students that stay alone sometimes in the lab or in their topic. No one working that topic, because for example, the master students still have a group, undergrad, but PhD is a very lonely job, and you can face a lot of these problems of health, mental health, but also issues about mentoring. No one to talk with, your supervisor is too busy, and I think you're right to mention that now it's also easy to connect with other people. The physical space before my time was the physical space. You didn't have internet, but now you have internet. You have all these kinds of networks that can connect and help to overcome some issues related to mentoring and kind of loneliness. No, I think that's a very good point. Anyone want to ask a question or make a comment for? Yeah.
To make just a quick comment on Pupin comment about the importance of choose the right topic. And I was think about also there is very important associated with that to create a relationship with the topic and with the institution relation that have relation with the topic, because access data is one of most important part of a young scholar career, and it's very difficult. It takes time to you develop an access to, for example, access good data to do your research. So, for example, I'm researching with a central bank in Brazil. I'm seeing that it took many years to create a relationship, to have access to people there and to have access to their data. So if you choose a certain topic, it's very important to think about also how to create a long-standing relationship with the people who are in this subject, because we needed to have access to secondary data or even to interviews and to have relation with these communities. So I believe in the long run, one of the most important things is to develop this kind of relationship with the field that you are working.
Okay, when you're talking about choosing a topic, I'm just here thinking that I don't know with maybe where you coming from, don't you have scenarios where there is a call for funding, and the call for funding is climate change, and you are economist, but you want to do a PhD, but you don't have the funding. The funding is there. Maybe we also need to get to a point where we are also in somehow flexible, that we don't only restrict ourselves to microeconomics. So you do development economics, health economics, try to diversify a bit so that at least it can also cap the issue of not having funding, because funding might be there, but maybe you're only restricting yourself to a certain topic that is also, some topics are like not, mostly with academics, we also move with the trend. We cannot dispute that these days it's SDGs because we are running out of time. So everyone is talking about SDGs. We have got digital transformation, even if it's in infrastructure. I do digital transformation in localization of SDGs. So definitely digitalization comes in. So this is what everyone is talking about. So try to maneuver your way to something so that at least you can also move, because anyway, I hope there are no scientists. If you spend time researching how many legs a frog has, don't bring solution to food security. So that's what I'm trying to say, at the end of the day, there are some situations where definitely you have to diversify so that you can get to where you want to go.
Thank you. At this point, at the end of the day, it's like a game. There are some rules. You have to follow the rules. And a lot of times these rules is the funding and where the funding takes you. And certain topics are hot topics, and a lot of people tend to crowd out on this topic. During the COVID, there are more papers on COVID than in 2 years than the 5 decades on Parkinson, for example, because all the resources of funding go to COVID. Everyone started studying COVID, and I think a lot of young scholars, the topic, you have to do this balance, something they are interested, but at the same time in the game is you need to, if you want funding, you need to study a certain topic that be likely to get funding. If not, you have issues with not being able to develop your research full time. That's a very good point. I'll open the floor for any questions. We have 2 questions here. Professor Matur, you have a microphone? Yes, coming. And you have Dr. Wasu over there. Check.
Thank you. This is Amitav Basu from Center for Environmental Management and Participatory Development in Kolkata. First, I must congratulate the panel for an excellent deliberation. And I would like to have a submission to this August panel to give their views on a dimension that I would like to add to this discussion. When we speak of young scholars, do we restrict only to research and PhDs, or do we go beyond those who are still not at that level? If I have heard Professor Guha rightly, in one of the conferences, a student just out of school, if I've heard him rightly, presented on the performance of countries during the COVID period. So therefore, there are a lot of talents in the BRICS and the developing countries which go, just waste because they are not getting that access or that attention. In that context, and in the backdrop of SDG 4, which says inclusive and equitable quality education, what is the view of this August panel on introducing or enforcing distant education? We have organizations like Commonwealth of Learning, which is spreading this distance education, especially in the small island countries. We have SPARC, which is doing so in the conflict-affected countries. And my second point is what our colleague from South Africa mentioned on employment. We do PhD, we do research, but how do we stop the brain drain which countries like India and many developing countries are facing? Thank you.
Maybe we get another question, Professor Matu here in the front.
Thank you. It's been an excellent panel, raised some really good topics and questions and perspectives from the entire gamut of BRICS. Sort of two things. One, I wanted to actually echo what Professor Basu just said. There was a student in the last INET panel who was an undergraduate student who had done absolutely path-breaking work on looking at the climate effects of on workers, looking at how climate is an occupational hazard for a lot of workers. And all she did was not all, but what she did was documented the life experiences of people working in the kitchens in the college, in the hostel, and of guards who were out and exposed in the open. And over a 4-month period, documented their experiences and did an excellent qualitative study that was presented at the last INET conference. And that brings me to my second bit. While the focus in governance and public administration quite often has remained, and as Jose also rightly pointed out, that we have this thing about quantification of the research, there is a vast sort of a space to do very good qualitative interpretive research that brings out the experiences, for example, of doing work with communities, of doing work with marginalized groups, whether the ones that Pratiksha had mentioned and the ones that Thandolo had mentioned as well. And there are many journals now that are very accepting of rigorous qualitative research. Many departments also have excellent training and methodological approaches to qualitative research, to ethnographic, anthropological approaches in the broader realm of public management, public policy as well. And I think some of us do document these journals and have figured out ways to expand the scope of the way in which public policy work is now accepted from a more qualitative, interpretive, grounded way. So I just wanted to add that to the panel. Thank you.
Thank you. We go back to the panel and who wants to start to answering. We don't need to answer all the questions. One of the points. One.
Thank you so much. I think I will just tackle a bit, though it wasn't much of a question, but it also goes hand in hand on the issue of the young scholars. I think we also, as academic, or maybe the older ones, not doing much of justice, especially one, I don't know the rule, but I found it there. If you are in honors, you cannot publish, if I'm not mistaken, if maybe depending on the place where you are. But most people, they take work that is done on honors level as just something that you do in passing so that you go to your master's. But publication is taken serious when you start from master's. But also the other issue that is there, especially on the South African side, with most institutions, I don't know how the procedures are in terms of ethics, especially when mentioning qualitative research or primary data collection. There is ethics clearance that is needed. And ethics clearance, there is an ethics committee, which is not employed by the university, but voluntary supervisors and voluntary academics who sit. So when they are free, that's when they come and sit down and assess the students who wants to go and collect data. That will be maybe a medical doctor, not like qualified ethics. So you can be given a topic to assess which you don't know anything about. So that also limits the level. Now, to say if you are going to finish your honors in 1 year, then going through the ethics process, it takes maybe 1.5 years for you to then be allowed to go and collect data, because you have to take into consideration the human aspect. Are you not going to take research on animals? Are you not going to interview children? You know, all those, I don't know whether it's the same process. So it tend of like, even if young honors or they are there, they are excited, but they cannot jump this ethics process. So if maybe they can be something that can be done on this ethics part, then I think we can take more of post undergraduates for them to also become researchers. I think that can also help.
Good point is that the young scholars not only PhDs, but there is a challenge of today there are a lot of managerial things you have to do when you have PhD, including this ethical committee. I think is common in most of the countries. They can take, not only take time, but you need to know how to do the procedures and so on. Any other point? Any?
I would love to second what Professor Amitav Basu and Professor Naveen Mathur said. At this esteemed platform, I would like to reiterate the importance of inclusion in education. So Article 26 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, it has declared inclusion in education and merit-based equal accessibility to higher education as a human right. And as Professor Amitav Basu pointed out, SDG 4, the new global education goal, it aims to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all by the year 2030. And SDG 4.3, one of the 7 targets of SDG 4 goal, it aims to ensure equal access for all men and women to affordable and quality technical, vocational, and tertiary education, including university, by the year 2030. And being a scholar from India, I would like to say that our National Education Policy 2020, it's in line with the SDG 4 goal, and it's framed as such it aims to achieve the GR target of 50% and in turn universalize India's higher education system by 2035. And even our NEP 2020 policy, it has kept equity and inclusion as its cornerstone, and it aims to achieve inclusive education system by 2040. So our governance system itself, it has even the RUSA scheme, Rashtriya Uchchatar Shiksha Abhiyan in India. It aims to improve access, equity, and inclusion in higher education and to achieve a GR target of 30% by 2022. So the main concern would be is that 21st century India has witnessed a massive expansion in its higher education system, but unlike developed economies, massification in India has been facilitated through privatization, majorly by unaided private institutions, which in turn raises equity concerns. So, so I would like to reiterate that our government of India has framed the national education policy in line with the SDG 4 goal. And coming to Dr. Naveen Mathur's point of conducting a qualitative analysis um, on vulnerable communities, it's indeed a pride that IIM Ahmedabad, along with Boston Consulting Group, it conducted the first pan-India LGBTQIA plus survey. It was called Fostering Pride in Higher Education report by BCG Consulting Group and IIM Ahmedabad. And it's one of the first pan-India studies which reported that there are 5 dimensions of LGBTQIA plus acceptance, because it's a very sensitive topic, and getting secondary data on this topic, it's really difficult. So we do need more primary studies. Because on the NSS rounds of education, there is lack of data on the education of people with varied sexual orientations and gender identities. And being such a sensitive topic, it's difficult to include such fields such as gender identities and sexual orientation in a national representative survey.
Sorry, because you have time.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
So yeah.
You have one more question. Someone answer 1 minute regarding the brain drain. Anyone want to touch this? If it's an issue, brain drain? No.
And on the idea of brain drain.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Basu.
No, I think I totally agree with their points that I think this is where the opportunities at the institutional level and also opportunities after you complete your degree or your course, these two are becoming very key factors in addressing the brain drain. For example, if somebody completes his PhD from a place like this, then also would look for a better opportunity of employment. Therefore, I think to kind of counter the brain drain, we need both institutional support system at the level when they're doing some study and the research, and also afterwards, what can be done. And quickly to respond to the idea of tapping the talent from the very beginning. One of the problems is that accessing journal. This is where Government of India has also given us a lot of access that we can access the journals. And not only that, unlike earlier days, some of the unit level data survey in economics also have been made freely available on the web, easily accessible now compared to others. So even you can motivate your younger students to get access to some of those things and do their own research. You can guide them. And the kind of college where I teach, we have had some success, although it's a non-metro college, non-metro city college. We have had very much success. Some of our students have presented on YSI platforms in Cambodia and places like that also. So that I would say that institutional support plays a key role there. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. We're going to the end of the panel. Thank you very much. We discussed a lot of those challenges, from resources to a challenge for certain groups, mentoring networks, but also the opportunity. The BRICS have a lot of interesting things to study. Any resource may be a challenge, but it's not, I would say, the major challenge for research. And I would like to thank all the panelists. Also, Alexei, young scholar of but gave his opinion on Russia and compliment the BRICS. And I also thank the INET, Young Scholars Initiative, for the support. And I wish you all best in the rest of the day and also the rest of the conference. Thank you.
Thanks.
We would like to thank the esteemed panelists for an extremely insightful discussion, and I'm sure there were several key takeaways for our students here. We would now be opening the floor for questions from the students of IIM Raipur.
So we've opened the floor for the students if they have any.
Because I opened already for question. They didn't have question. Then. Okay. Because now we have the times 4:30. Then.
Yes.
Sorry.
Doctor, if you could please, is this a memento that we want to have? I would take this opportunity to thank all the panel members for their valuable insights on the topic and for sharing with us their invaluable experiences. I now request Dr. Jose A. Pupem to extend the memento from IIM Raipur to the panelists for gracing us with their presence in the BRICS conference. Dr. Shashwata Guha. Mr. Papaya Coppola. Ms. Pratiksha Gopinath.
Mr. Bruno Henrique Sanchez. Dr. T. Kwani. I would now like to invite Professor Jitesh to come onto the dais and felicitate the moderator with a memento. So just a minute.
Just a moment.
I would now like to invite Sri Sarita Taneja, Deputy Secretary, Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances, to join us on the stage for the memento. On behalf of our keynote speaker, Sri V. Srinivas, Secretary, Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances, we thank you for your contribution for the BRICS Conference 2024.
The participants for the paper presentations are requested to move to classroom number 101 and 106 for their presentations. Also, we would like to take this opportunity to invite you all for the cultural event for this BRICS conference that is planned at 7 p.m. tonight in this very same auditorium.
We would now request all the panelists to gather for a photograph. Yes, sir. And even the panelists joining us via Zoom. Yes.
We would like to thank our panelists who have joined us via Zoom for this conference.
Thanks.
We request all the panelists to gather for a photograph now. We now request the dignitaries to proceed for high tea, and we request the students to wait until the guests leave. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take a bag.